Welcome everyone to another episode of the Jason's Take On podcast. I'm Jason Whitehead based in Washington, D.C. I'm here with my co-host, Jason Noble over in the UK.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode. Really excited for this one. We've got another excellent guest, so we're really looking forward to this one.
Yep, absolutely. So today we're excited to have Jack Choppin here with us. In this episode, it's going to be a little bit different. We're excited about it. Jack is the head of client success at GoProposal, and he's recently been on a proactive effort to expand his professional network. And he's been doing it not to find a job, which I think is great, to really grow as a professional and expand his insights and skills and connect with others so that they can mutually grow from their own shared connections. So in this episode, Jack will be sharing his insights about what it's like to network in the customer success community, how to do it effectively, and how to use your network to grow your skills as a customer success professional. So really excited to have Jack here. Jack, before we get started, why don't you just take a second here to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and your organization and how you got on this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, I'm the head of client success at GoProposal. So GoProposal is a pricing, proposal and engagement letter software that's all about enabling accountants and bookkeepers to really price consistently, to sell more confidently to their clients and their prospects, but also to minimize risks across the firm as well. It's all about that whole compliance and pricing piece for accountants and bookkeepers. Now, I suppose my background starts back when I left university. I was initially wanting to go into marketing. So I started out as a marketing assistant and then got into a role, a graduate role in an account management firm. So, an account management role within a direct marketing agency. So I moved from Leeds in England down to the south of England near Cheltenham. And the aim and the long-term goal was always to be closer to family. I'm from the north, I'm from Doncaster originally, and my partner, she's from Manchester. So we always wanted to be in the north and be around our family. And it just so happened that a close friend of mine knew someone who was setting up a new business in Manchester, a business called GoProposal. And this guy was looking for someone who could work with his clients and train them in how to use a software. Like when I say clients, it was about 30 people back then. This is very early days of GoProposal. And it's from there that I got introduced to James Ashford, the founder of the system. Straight away, I knew this guy was great, someone who I wanted to work with, someone who I could really get behind. Took the job offer as soon as I could and started working with James and with the GoProposal clients, building out the training and helping those guys get set up. And from there, we've been able to build out a success team. I've been lucky enough to be a big part of shaping that client success team, and we're where we are today.
Oh, fantastic. When we first connected, it's because you'd intentionally set out to expand your network to customer success. And what inspired me is that you were not out to build your network like so many people do, just to help get a new job. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to go on this networking journey and what you hope to achieve by growing your network?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing to say is that getting a job and having a big profile online are really important byproducts of that process. I don't want to knock those, and I think you should be thinking about how they can be part of what you do when you're building your network. Absolutely. But I think at the center of networking and why you should do it should be essentially your passion, why you care about your work, and finding out more about that work really, and being genuinely curious in what other people are doing in the industry that you want to get into. So my sort of initial reason for getting involved with this started with a conversation with one of my best friends. Now, not only is my best friend, but he's also someone who I look up to a lot. He's someone who's got thousands of followers across different networks. He's a senior leader in the product design world. And we were talking about careers and how you grow your profile and what we were doing at work. And he just said, this client success stuff, this is something that you're really into, aren't you? This is something that's going to be for you long term. You're really passionate about it. And it's got me thinking about the idea that he saw this passion in me and he saw a change in what I've been doing previously. And we got talking about the concept of networking and why you should network and what you can do with a solid network. So my initial central goal was just to get close to this community of people that were working in something that I loved, but I realized I wasn't really particularly close to this community. I didn't know the big players in the community. I didn't know what the latest things were that were coming out, and I was a little bit isolated from everything that was going on. So my main goal really was to get in with the crowd of people that knew what was going on, that knew client success, and get involved with people I could learn from, and hopefully educate and give something back as well into that community.
Do you think have you achieved that, and how's that achievement been? Has it been something that happened very organically after those first few conversations? Because it is, I think it is such a broad community with people globally. We're both in different continents. We've both spoken to you separately.
Yeah.
But it's something that you can, I think you can sometimes get frustrated because it could be quite slow. But then at the same time, if you start the right level of conversations, it could go really quickly, and you could see benefits and outcomes yourself coming back really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I saw the benefits straight away. I probably started 6 months ago, something like that. Initially just connecting with people, having a look at what was going on, taking part in conversations. But as soon as I started doing sort of things in earnest, I realized that this is something that can actually happen really quickly, and you can start getting those results back really quickly just because of the way people are on the network. I mean, you guys have been fantastic, very open and very happy to have conversations. So getting involved was actually very easy when I started actually doing things properly and with a real drive behind it.
That's great. And I think with the customer success community in particular, that everyone is very welcome and open and looking to learn. And the professional itself is changing so much and so rapidly that people want to stay abreast of what's the latest information. And I think there's a gift to get mentality here. You don't find it necessary.
I think it's something that we've said before, Jason, that it is about
other industries.
Signal's a bit choppy with you there, Jason.
Yeah, I think you broke up a second.
Yeah. We're just saying, I think it's something that's inherent about what we're trying to do. It's about success, and it's success of other people, both customers and the community. It's just such a really good place to be in. How would you, Jack, based on kind of your experience, what's the best way to start networking? I love the way that you talked about being genuinely curious. And I think that's something that again, is part of who we are in customer success. We want to understand things better. What are some of the pointers and tips to how you go about getting those initial introductions? Do you focus on a specific item, a specific problem?
Yeah, I think for me, that's really important. I think with both of you guys, actually, I didn't follow that rule. I think I just reached out and said, I noticed what you guys are doing. You're doing a lot of great work in the community and I'd love to connect. So I didn't follow that rule there. But for the majority of the sort of networking I've done, it's been very important to have a specific problem or a specific area you want to explore. And I always remember, this is a while back now, but Tim Ferriss did a podcast. It was just him, like one of those ones where it's just him talking through questions. And one of the things that someone asked was, how do you go out and get a mentor? And the first thing he said was, once you've found the people that you respect and you want to speak to, don't just say, can you be my mentor? You've got to start engaging with them on a conversation that they care about, that they've got a response to, and that they can offer value to. And I think that's very similar when it comes to networking. If you can start with something that lights someone's fire and is very specific to something you're trying to do, then instantly you get value from that connection if they're willing to talk to you, and they get to talk about something they love and they care about. The issue with going, I'd love to connect and be part of your network, is that it's very hard to get momentum moving forward there. I can imagine if someone came to either of you guys with a very specific problem around health scores or whatever it was, you'd be very open and probably very energetic when it came to talking to them and wanting to talk about that issue. So I think when you focus your attention on certain areas, then you get the best of the people coming back at you, and the momentum just gets built much quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. And people reach out to us quite frequently. I still reach out to a lot of other professionals that say, oh, you're in customer success and you've got this unique focus or this unique background. Just very curious, would love to learn more. Can we, we'd be up for a 20-minute conversation. And it's definitely easier when you're asking them about something to start a conversation. At least it is for me. I'm curious, though. Obviously, I speak to a lot of people about networking. especially people either junior in their career or trying to break into the customer, hesitant to reach out, whether it's on LinkedIn or back when we used to have in-person networking, if anyone remembers those days, or even getting an email introduction. What advice do you have for people that might be hesitant to build their network, or who are afraid of doing it or just uncomfortable? How would you help them move forward?
Yeah, I think it's really important to address that it's not something that people are always going to enjoy doing. And I think as human beings, putting yourself forward for what may feel like a potential trip or a stumble, or making yourself look like an idiot, is something that people don't like doing. So I think it's very important to overcome that first, being willing to be the new guy in the room, be the person who may not necessarily know the most and may put themselves out there to get shot down, is really important. But then on the flip side of that, I think it's really important to assume the best in people. And like you guys have said, the client success community is fantastic. It's a group of people that are willing to share everything that they do. They're willing to share specific documents they've built. Even they get very specific with the elements they're willing to pass out there. So I think you should assume the best in people, and that people do want to help and do want to talk to you and be part of this conversation. Now, I had a recent experience with this, where I reached out to someone who was a part of a sister company of ours. They're a partner of ours. We work with them, not sister company, but someone we work with and we've got a partnership with. And I remember feeling very nervous about reaching out to this individual with this problem that I wanted to talk to them about. And after getting over that and just connecting and thinking, okay, I'm going to send this through. I don't care what happens. If they tell me to F off or whatever, that's fine. And very friendly, came back to me, fantastic guy, offered some great insight into the challenge I was trying to solve. And off the back of that conversation, he's now a regular mentor of mine, someone I connect with on a monthly basis, just to talk about what's going on in the business, and someone who really understands the growth pains that we're going through right now. So just by getting over that initial fear of reaching out, I was able to create a great connection with someone who's offered me a lot of value over the last few months.
I think that's so important, isn't it? It's how do you take those, because we all get these connections off LinkedIn, and my view is you accept 99% of them. There are some that are absolutely just trying to pitch, and you can see that. There's also ones that it's not clear, but when you connect with them, they then try and pitch straight away, and that clearly isn't about a genuine relationship. But how do you, what's the best way that you found, some tips that you found, Jack, of how you expand what might be a more generic connection into a true connection that helps both of us? How do you turn it into something that helps both of us grow in our professions and our businesses, and really help something that's quite unique about how we network with customer success professionals to make it more than just a name and a number?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really important. It actually can be really hard to do. And I think one of the first things that I found is important around this is to get yourself out there and surround yourself with the right people. We mentioned like Success Chain and things like that. They're the networks of people that are going to be in very similar situations to you. Some will be further along the journey than you. Some will be starting out in the journey as well. By being part of these communities and being very specific with the conversations you take part in, the things that you post, I think that's when you can get to the point where it's not just a general comment or a generic connection. You can reach out to someone and get some very specific help. And then if you're in these communities, at some point there will be that person there who may not know as much about something that you know a lot about, and they can then get that help from you and they can talk to you about things. So I think being part of these communities, we're very lucky, I think, within client success to have so many of these very specific communities out there that we can take part in. By being very genuine in these communities, by offering and contributing towards them, I think we're able to create truer connections on a level that's not just a general online connection. And one of the things I've done to try and make things not so generally when I've been reaching out to people is even like sending recorded videos of myself. Some have been more successful than others, and very specific messages where I've reached out to an individual, told them how much I enjoyed their appearance on a podcast or a blog post they've done recently. And I think just that human connection means that we can get past that generic feeling that we can often have with these connections.
I love what you just said about sending those videos or even just a short note, because I know when you're doing things even like our podcast or when you're writing an article or sharing some thoughts, so you're putting yourself out there a little bit and you're trying to add value, but sometimes you feel a little bit vulnerable. That inspired me. I think that encourages a lot of people to keep going. And I think there's also the challenge with networking is that, at least in my situation, you get very busy and everyone gets busy at different points in time, and you may get a lot of requests at the same time. And I would love to reach out and love to have a conversation with everyone, but I could fill my entire day and get work done if I do that. So it can be tough to draw that balance, and yet you don't want to reject someone who's sincerely reaching out to you in a nice faith effort. So it's always that tough balance, I think, to get that. But
yeah, definitely.
I definitely like what you're saying though about the send a note in the video.
I think like on top of that as well is to be in the right sort of communities on LinkedIn. One of the things I've noticed more and more just by connecting with industry leaders and other people who are on the same level as me is that now when I do log into LinkedIn, when I've got time, when I'm having a look at what's going on and I'm browsing through, there's just more conversations that I can be part of. There's just things that I can contribute to. I can say, oh, yeah, I like that, but have you thought about this? And then other people will see me contributing to that conversation. I think it's just much easier when you've got that right network around you.
How do you, Jack, what you've done with your networking, how have you found the number of communities out there? Because that is something that is growing, and one of the big challenges is knowing where to spend your time, and where you've got, in LinkedIn is a good one, there's all the other standard social media ones, but you've also got other more customer success specific ones. How do you find the best way to balance your time between them?
Yeah, that's really important. I think one of the things I've been guilty of and something that I want to be better at when you talk about these specific communities is just going in there when I need something. I think I'm guilty from time to time just going into these communities when I think, oh, I want to find out what people are saying about NPS scores. I want to understand how other people use their sentiment score, whatever that's going to be, rather than offering other things in there as well. So one of the things that I think can really help there is to set aside specific time to go in those communities and look at threads that you can contribute towards as well. So not just going in there when you need something or there's something that you want to ask about, but also putting aside specific time to then go in and see if you can offer something from yourself. And I'm I think, guilty at the minute of not contributing that as much as I should. And I would love to do that a lot more.
Yeah, I like that. And I know whenever I'm going to a conference or even a meetup or a virtual conference, I always block off time the day after, 2 days after, to do my follow-up and to make sure I'm connecting with folks, even if it is just a short note, because otherwise it falls by the wayside and unintentionally, oh, wow, that was 6 weeks ago. How did that happen? So I think
it is so important to do that, isn't it? I think you've got to, networking doesn't just happen. It is an investment of time, and you've got to do it the right way, and it requires you to do the right thing and to build those genuine connections.
Yeah. And I think even to that point too, is that a lot of people come into networking, some truly enjoy it. You get the extroverts of the world or the people that are really into the subject matter and spend a lot of time here. They get a buzz out of it, so it's easy for them. And I think you get other people that it is that chore or whatever their blockage may be. And I view it, what's the metric? What is your return on networking? And you build a network. One, I think you have to build your network before.
It is about building your network up, Jason, like you said.
And you need it, it's too late, it's not there. And this is a professional endeavor that we're doing this to grow in our careers, whether it's to find the next job or whether to upskill ourselves, that it's absolutely appropriate to call on your network when you have a challenge or when you're trying to learn more. So I think, getting that balance right is really important, and people should be very open about it. Yes, I'm networking to grow in my career, and this is what it is, and just be happy with that. You take a training course, why wouldn't you invest the same time networking now?
Yeah, definitely.
Jack, what would you give us some of your recommendations for how people in customer success, client success, can build up relationships and communities with people and an effective network with people outside of customer success? So other professions, people like sales leaders, like marketing leaders. What are some of the ways that we can do that? Or even with kind of effective networking with customers?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a couple of different things that I've done to try and avoid being in this one specific lane, should you say, in terms of just client success. Obviously, like you say, it's a lot of power there when it comes to networking with customers and other leaders outside of the specific industry that you're in. Now, there's something that we do at GoProposal, which is that as part of our processes, we connect with all new customers on LinkedIn and Twitter and things like that. That's just something that we have built into what happens when someone comes through the door and when they get onboarded. So what that means is when we start developing content or releasing new features, for example, that have gone from GoProposal, we know that we've got a network of people that are customers and that will see that and can be part of our conversation as well. And I think it comes back to, when we're not talking about customers, we're talking about leaders. I think it comes back to that idea of having a specific problem and reaching out to the right people. I was recently having a conversation with someone around objection handling and how you can close deals a little bit better, and that is something that our team is heavily involved with, but I think will be seen quite specifically as a sales aspect, and some people may separate that out from client success. But just from having that conversation, they said, oh, you should see this model that a guy called Gavin from Fluidly's got, you should check this out. And I reached out to him, he then spoke to me, and we were able to set up a training session for the team where he was taking us through all this content, showing us how the sales process will work in his eyes, which was fantastic. The guy knows so much, and he really is a top sort of sales expert. So it was fantastic to have that in the team. Mm-hmm. And I suppose the final thing is the content that you push out there doesn't have to be client success specific. It can be about your expertise, but you can make it more wider reaching. I did a blog post recently on health score, and it wasn't about how you implement a really complicated health score or how you use algorithms or complex data to build the greatest health score, because I'm not an expert in that and I wouldn't be able to do a good blog post on it. But it was about how people who don't have the resources yet to do that but want to be closer to the health of their customers, how they can start taking little steps to do that. And that's great for smaller accountancy practices that I work with, because they don't have the resource to build complex data models that will look at what the health score of their clients is, but they do care about how well the relationships are going. So it's nice to sometimes repurpose that and think about the wider picture when you're talking about the elements of client success.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even to that point too, some people hesitate to show too much of their own life or their own personality in their blog posts, in their video posts. And when someone does, especially in the customer success community, I think it really shouts out. And I think being willing to be a little bit open or vulnerable out there with the community, you get such great dividends, and so many people are supportive, especially in the customer success world, that I would encourage people to not feel that they always need to focus just on some great content idea, but share a little bit more. I was really nervous in this client situation, and here's what I did. Yeah. How was cooking with it, things like that.
I think that's something that's changed over the last, maybe it is an impact of pandemic and people being remote and wanting that better engagement. But I think you've seen a lot more people just open up about a lot more things. Yeah. And it's really encouraging to see. And I think it's something that we'll see continue.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it lends itself quickly to that trust factor and feeling like you get to know someone even before you've met them. And is this someone I would want to have in my life? Is this someone I want to share my time with? So I think it's great. So Jack, to wind this out a little bit then, what challenge or mistakes have you made during your networking journey, and any recommendations that you would share people try to avoid these things? It's always a learning curve for all of us, and we've all made our mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's nice what you guys just said there, because I think that would be one of the first mistakes I made, was just not being authentic to me as an individual, and put posts out there that people are like, is that you who wrote that? Not you who's written that post. It's like, yeah, no, that was me. I was trying to be this person. I wasn't just being Jack. So I think some of the best posts I've seen out there are just people being raw, being authentic, and just doing what they do best, being themselves in a way that you can connect with. So I would always avoid being too sanitized or maybe overthinking how you want to be perceived. I think overthinking is another big thing as well when it comes to generating content or pushing posts out there. I know we've recently done a challenge in the business to get everybody posting. So people from the head developer right through to the people who work in operations, to start them post on LinkedIn, which is our sort of main platform.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much people overthink just a really simple post on LinkedIn. They'll spend a couple of hours in a couple of paragraphs going back, having it in draft and not sending it. And it's just one of those things where you just got to hit go, get it out there and see how it works, and learn and develop and change your style from there.
Yep, absolutely.
Another thing I've seen quite a lot is, and I've done as well, is giving up quite easily or getting disheartened quite easily. I think we mentioned the video content. I think the first one I did, I put out there and I was quite nervous about it, and I posted it and sent it to someone and didn't get a response. And I know they'd sort of seen it, but they'd ignored it and didn't get back to me. And I've got that knot in my stomach of embarrassment. I was thought, oh, what am I doing here? Let's delete LinkedIn and never profile go network again. But I did it again and it worked. And then other times started doing it and started getting see momentum. So I think just cracking on with these things and not just assume because it didn't work once, it's not going to work again. Obviously be aware if that approach doesn't work, but don't let that sort of knot of anxiety in your stomach slow you down or stop you. Yeah, and I think something else is one thing that I need to work on, as I mentioned earlier, is just not showing gratitude and not passing it forward. I think it's really important if you're going to be effective at networking to be grateful for all the amazing help that people offer and to do whatever you can to pass that forward as well.
I think that gratitude is something that's very important. For me, it's bread and butter, just part of growing up. Manners, please, thank you. They go a long way. And I think particularly where people are helping you, and it's easy to do, but I think it's an acknowledgement and it goes a long way. And I think it's the same with customers as well. Something like that's really important to do. So one thing we always like to do, Jack, and it's been great having you on here, and I love these kind of topics because they're not just about customer success. It's a much broader, softer topic that a lot of people don't talk about sometimes. So it's really cool to start doing this. And we always do at the end of our podcast is ask one of these bold challenge questions for our guests. So the one that we'd like to give you is, what bold actions would you recommend that us as customer success professionals can take starting today to really help nurture and expand our own professional network? So just some kind of really actionable tips that you can give.
Yeah, sure. So I think number one is, I imagine there's a load of people out there that will have a little idea of a piece of content that's bubbling away that they've been thinking about that they think will be interesting. I would recommend everyone commit to it and commit to having it out by, let's say the Sunday that you're listening to this. So set yourself a target that's a few days away and just produce that piece of content and get it out there regardless of how comfortable or ready you feel to do that. I think setting that date and just getting out there is really important. The next thing I would recommend is to send that video. So the chances are you're reading content or you're listening to podcasts or audiobooks and there's people in that content that you really admire. Produce a video introducing yourself to that person and tell them why you admire them and why that content connected with yourself, because I think people love to hear that. And although it feels a little bit awkward sending those videos, I think it's just infinitely better and more sort of authentic and personal than a generic message.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other thing I would recommend is to find the biggest need in your team right now. What's the biggest challenge you face? And then go out and find the person who's solved that challenge in a world-class way and ask them if they're happy to have a conversation about it. So be very specific. What is it you're struggling with? Find the person who's absolutely smashed out of the park and then see if you can set up a meeting with that person.
I love it. They're also really cool, very specific tips as well. Not generic tips, but very specific and very actionable. Thank you so much, Jack. That's really cool.
It's been great, guys.
Thank
you very much for having me.
All right, take care.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.